Welcome to Ground Zero.
What's going on, you guys? I'm Ronnie.
And this is Amanda.
And this is Ground Zero. Now, we kind of debated on how we wanted to start the first episode and where we wanted each episode to continue. I think we decided that we're going to start here in Nashville, Tennessee, where we're located, and kind of cover each topic with conspiracy theories, missing 411, paranormal, just cults,
bunch of weird stuff.
just weird, strange stuff, and kind of branch out from there, and then go on to the next state and then cover from there.
Yep.
So, where do you want to begin?
I'm thinking the werewolves of Werewolf Springs
Okay.
in White Bluff, Tennessee.
Yes, White Bluff.
Which is only about an hour from here.
Yeah. Yep. We actually been there. We went to Montgomery Bell State Park.
Yep.
We were actually trying to look for the werewolves, and we filmed it and we put a video on our YouTube channel, Beyond Paranormal TV.
Yep. We'll have to go back.
Yes, we need to go back and then hopefully find something this time.
We're going to find that werewolf.
Yes. All right, so the werewolf of Werewolf Springs.
Yes. That's the area of Hall Springs. So Werewolf Springs, it's the nickname.
The locals nicknamed it after, I guess, had the sightings of werewolves around there.
Yeah, which started in the late 1860s when a circus train derailed around where Montgomery Bell State Park is now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then if I remember right, like all the animals just, like when the train wrecked, the animals just escaped.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Including two creatures that were known as the Wolfmen of Borneo.
Like half man, half wolf.
Yep. So all the circus workers ended up recovering all of the animals.
Like gathering all the animals up.
Yeah, they captured them all.
Except for
the werewolves. The
Now-
Wolfmen.
right, and then now I guess a couple years later, these like this farmer or landowner or something.
Yeah. Him and his hired hand, they were traveling in their horse and buggy
Okay.
down an old country road around this area, and they were heading from what is now the Burns area to a homestead near the Harpeth River.
I heard this one. This is like where I guess they were being stalked or something.
Yeah, they said they were being stalked by a wild creature.
Ooh.
So they were trying to go, faster and faster, trying to get away from it. But the creature just kept gaining on them and they couldn't lose it. So they ended up abandoning their wagon.
Now, why would you abandon your wagon
I don't know.
when the horses are going to be moving so much faster?
You would think, but maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess
I don't know. Maybe they just freaked out and thought maybe they could duck and weave around trees faster than a horse and buggy.
They took off through the woods, but they ended up going in separate directions. So,
Which, I mean, I guess I would too.
I guess if you're that scared, you're just going to run.
You're
not
just
going to
gonna
worry
run.
about the other person.
No, you're going to leave them behind and hope that you make it out.
But the landowner said he ended up hearing like screams and pleas from the hired hand.
Oh, God.
Like blood-curdling screams.
So I mean, there's nothing that he could do about it though, because he's just hearing this in the woods, and he has no idea where they are or what to do.
Yeah. And they never saw him again.
And that's the first
That was
sighting.
the first encounter. Yeah.
First encounter. And then
So after that, I guess, the landowner went back and told everyone, so they got together this posse to go out and find the beast. This reminds me of like
the Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah.
We'll kill the beast.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe.
So they got together. They headed to a clearing that was, I guess, where the landowner was. So they went back there. And they found, like, I guess, bones and stuff.
Like of the victims?
I guess.
Or animal, or...
Yeah. It looked like the creature had been hunting this area.
Okay.
So they tethered a goat.
Oh, poor goat.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, goat.
Yeah. They tied him up in the middle of the clearing, and then they all hid nearby under cover.
Wouldn't you be terrified, though, like if you knew you were hunting this big beast?
Yeah, what if it came up behind you?
Right,
Like
yeah.
it's been watching you this whole time.
Like you're probably sitting out there, it's probably pitch black at night, and you're just sitting waiting.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard to say like how I'd feel in that moment, but I'd probably be terrified.
Yeah, I would just be thinking it would
It's
just gonna
behind
come
me.
up behind me.
Yep. It'll rip me to shreds.
But then soon enough, a Sasquatch-like creature entered the clearing and went straight for the goat. And this is at night. But I guess they could barely see this. So the men fired their weapons at the creature. And then they lit up their lanterns to see if they got him.
Let me guess.
They didn't.
They didn't.
And the goat was gone.
Golly.
Yeah. So. And so were 2 members of their posse.
So they spread it out? Their posse spread it out?
Yeah, they were all spread out, like, around this clearing.
Okay.
Yep.
My God.
Yeah. So then, after all this one guy who is a big-time game hunter attempted to slay the beast. So he goes out.
Is his name Gaston?
Probably. I'm pretty sure it is.
So he goes out to hunt down this beast.
Yes, he goes out to this cabin and he stays there for 2 nights and nothing happens. He doesn't hear or see anything. But then on the 3rd night, he started hearing howling in the woods.
Oh.
Right outside of his cabin.
Oh, right outside.
Yeah. So he's looking out the windows and he spots this creature, this beast.
Now I wonder what he thought about it. Like when you're hearing like howling like right outside your cabin.
Yeah. He probably thought it was just a wolf at first.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if he's a big time game hunter, he's probably not thinking anything, like some crazy creature. He's probably just, oh, it's a wolf.
Yeah. But he sees this beast out in the woods. So he takes aim from the window and he fires his gun, but that only provoked it. And he came charging at the cabin.
Oh, God.
Yeah. And there was no place to hide in this cabin, so he just jumps up in the rafters. But then the beast broke through the door and came charging into the cabin.
That guy probably had a heart attack up in those rafters.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, like this guy's sitting there waiting,
Yeah.
and this beast just bolts inside.
Yeah.
I mean, what's he gonna do?
Well, he starts firing his gun, but it's like the bullets didn't even do anything. Didn't even phase it or anything. He just kept clawing at the hunter. Then after a few minutes, he ran out of ammo in his rifle, and all he had left was like 2 rounds in his pistol. But right before he had to use it, the creature ran off back into the woods.
So, I mean, none of these, like, rifle rounds
No,
are even phasing this creature.
I guess not. But he fled back into the woods because the sun started to rise.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like a werewolf thing.
Right, okay. I mean, I guess he knew. He was like, well, sun's coming up. I gotta go.
Yeah.
You lucked out.
Yep.
Man. I don't know. I couldn't imagine, like, if I'm sitting there with a rifle trying to take this creature down and none of these bullets are even phasing it. I mean, I don't think I'd ever step foot back in the woods ever again.
No.
I'd be done.
Yeah.
But I mean, I guess that's what a lot of people do that are like, it kind of became like a big thing for the locals, you know, that they talk about the werewolf of Werewolf Springs.
Yep. I'm sure there was plenty of people that tried to capture it or kill it or, you know.
Oh, I'm sure, yeah. And this was like, you know, back in the 1800s and stuff.
But not too long ago, I think it was in 2011, this guy named Sam Brown, a local teacher that grew up in the area in the 60s and also worked for the Montgomery Bell Park for 23 years.
Okay.
He always heard like stories and legends of the werewolves. In the
So
area.
he's like becoming interested in the legend.
I guess. But he was a Boy Scout in the 60s. And he always explored and hiked and camped this area.
Okay.
And one day he was out hiking an old trail that began at this fire tower in the southernmost point of the park that led to a cemetery near the springs, Werewolf Springs.
Oh, a cemetery too.
Yeah.
Man.
And then later in life, he decided to return to this trail. And he ended up going off the trail.
So, like, he was searching for something.
Sounds like it. And he came up on this cabin.
Oh, cabin. Okay, I wonder if it's the same cabin.
Right. He said it was abandoned and fallen in and, you know.
Ooh, like nice, creepy
Yeah.
cabin in the woods.
Looks like it hasn't been lived in, like, probably since all that happened.
Right.
But the outhouse was still standing.
Okay, well, that's good. He could still use that.
Yep. And he also said it looked like it had been plowed.
Like the area around the cabin?
Yeah.
Huh. Well, that's interesting.
Yep.
Something that looks that abandoned, but the ground being plowed around it.
So, Sam Brown actually has another story about this creature
Okay.
near Lake Acorn, and that's around the park's inn.
So there must be like, do you think, so it got me thinking, like, over the years, there was a couple, like, wolfmen that escaped that
Yeah.
circus train.
Probably male and female, I guess.
That's what I was wondering, like, if they ended up getting these wolfmen, you know, male and female, and then now there could be multiples
Yep.
over the years.
So, Sam actually worked at the inn.
Okay.
That
Did-
was Todd.
That was the werewolf.
That was the werewolf. Todd, you messed me up.
So he worked at the inn.
Yes, as security.
Okay.
So, on a very cold winter night, prior to retiring in 2004,
Okay.
and this is probably why he retired.
Probably so. Feel like, screw this.
Yeah. He said it was around 1 a.m, and all of a sudden, he hears the most blood-curdling screams. Like
Ooh.
from a wild animal or something.
Like the animal's the one screaming, not what the animal's killing?
I don't know. Maybe. But it was wild.
It was so wild.
Wild. So he starts getting scared. And he's going all around this...
I guess the inn, like, what is he doing? Like, just patrolling, trying to figure out what this screaming's coming from?
Yeah, and locking all the doors and all the windows.
Oh, so he's just more like freaking out than
Yeah.
trying to, like, investigate it.
Well, yeah. I would be too.
I don't know. He's security, like he's top dog or something, you know?
Yeah, but... he probably wasn't used to blood-curdling screams coming
Probably
from the
not.
woods.
Yeah, that's true. Probably not. Yep.
He said the sound appeared to be coming from the edge of the lake, which is only like 150 feet away.
Ooh.
Yeah. But he never saw anything. And he never saw anything anywhere in the park in 23 years that he worked there. But he heard plenty of eerie sounds while walking through the woods at night.
That's interesting.
Wouldn't that be creepy to be a park ranger? Like, I was thinking about being a park ranger, but that would be creepy to have to patrol around the woods at night.
Yeah. I mean, that's true, but we did go into the woods to film, like, looking for the werewolf and
And it
stuff.
was creepy.
Well, I know it was
got
creepy.
freaked
Yeah,
out.
I know. But yeah, imagine having to do that like day in and day out, like part of your shift. Like have to go out at night to patrol.
Especially knowing there's werewolf sightings in this area.
Right, yeah.
You're
Like
working in.
the local legend, you know, there's werewolves, and part of my job is I have to go into the woods at night to patrol. I couldn't do it.
No.
I'm sure I mean, I don't know.
Especially by yourself.
Yeah. I was going to say, I'm sure maybe, you know, they have like somebody with them, but maybe not.
I don't know. So there's another story that happened in 1920s. So this family came to this area of White Bluff, and they decided to build their home
Okay.
in the woods. You
Now, is
remember
this-
this one?
This is the family that he had like 7 children.
Yeah, this couple had like 7 kids. And they thought they had found the perfect little spot. They started a farm.
But then wasn't it like shortly after they started getting settled in that
Yeah, they started to realize there was some strange stuff going on.
Yeah, like I'm trying to think. I don't remember if it was like every night, but it was like
Yeah.
happening like often enough to where it was like, you know, pretty
Yeah.
crazy. Like they would hear like these blood curdling screams like coming out of the woods,
Every night.
and it just kept continuing to the point where, you know, the husband, the father, he didn't know what else to do, so he grabbed his rifle and charged into the woods
Yep.
to try to see what's going on, you know, like where are these screams coming from. And then I think he like makes it like through this forest,
He's
you know,
searching
up this
all around their land.
right, yeah, searching everywhere, gets into the forest, like, and then it's like quiet,
Yep.
like
And then-
eerie quiet.
He starts hearing the screaming coming from behind him. From their cabin.
And then he immediately panics, starts charging his way out of the woods, gets back to the cabin,
And there's
and
his
it's too
family.
late. Yeah, it's too late. His family's there. whatever it was got to his family, and they were just kind of scattered throughout the cabin.
Body parts everywhere. Like something just went in
Tore
there
them
and
apart.
Tore them apart.
I mean, what else could it be other than the werewolf?
Yeah. Like there's legends of this creature called the White Screamer in this area too.
Right, yeah. The White Bluff White Screamer.
Yep. But which some of these stories could be connected to.
Right.
But then the description of the White Screamer is of a woman.
Right, yeah. Kind of like La
Like a
Llorona.
misty, like
Yeah, right.
spirit of a woman.
Yeah, not so much like a
Not a creature.
creature, monster.
So I think White Bluff has
I think they have
other
like
things going
other
on.
things. Yeah, White Bluff is kind of like a hot zone for some weird stuff going on.
Yeah.
If you ever, if you're around Nashville area or you plan on visiting Nashville, I would definitely, if you could, make it out to Montgomery Bell State Park and check it out. See if you could.
I think we should go back.
I mean, I'm going to go back
And we should camp.
at night.
Yeah. Could you do that?
Maybe.
I probably could.
Yeah, maybe.
Would you camp in a hammock? Or a tent?
I would do a hammock. That way I could get out and start running faster.
So you could be eating faster.
Maybe, yeah. I don't know, like in a tent, I feel like we'd get like stuck in it and then try
That
to
one
work the
time?
zipper. Yeah,
We went camping and
At
we
night?
heard something
that's right. Forever ago.
checking out our tent.
And then you
And
remember the
we
screaming?
heard those screams.
The freaking screaming. I forgot about that. Yeah,
That was probably the werewolf.
it could have been. Oh my God.
Well, you have a story about a werewolf.
I actually do. Now, you guys may think I'm crazy. It doesn't matter. I'm crazy anyway. So, I do have a story. Bear in mind, this story's kind of. It could kind of branch out into a bunch of different stories, but I'll go ahead and kind of focus on the werewolf side of it. Probably how many years ago do you think it was? How many? We moved to this house in Mount Juliet, Tennessee.
Maybe 4 years ago.
Yeah, probably 4 years ago. Now this house was built in '68. It was a really old house, original,
It's creepy too.
very creepy. That's why I said this
We have
story.
a story on that.
Yeah, this story could branch out into other stories because I
Save
mean it's
that
just
for later.
yeah.
Sorry.
But the werewolf story that I have for you, at the time, my wife, she's at work, and I'm just around the house, so I'm doing yard work, I'm doing housework, kind of just whatever, and just out of nowhere, I'm up upstairs in our room, I'm doing laundry, putting clothes away, and I just hear this like gnarly, growly, screechy scream. And first I'm not paying attention to it, and then it's getting louder, so then my ears kind of like, oh, what is that? So I go to the window, I open up the window, I'm looking out into our front yard. Now this house has 12 acres around it. The front yard's got some trees and stuff, but it's mostly open. And then the side yard and the backyard is pretty heavily wooded. So when I open up the window facing the front yard, I keep hearing these like gnarly scream things. One's kind of deeper and then one's kind of high pitch. And it was something that I've never heard before. And I'm just sitting there listening. And it keeps coming and coming. And then it breaks from the woods on the side of the house into the front yard. And I kid you not, I swear to you, this was a werewolf with a cub behind it. Walking across our front yard making its way, like, on the other side of the yard, back into the woods. And while I'm watching this, I'm so frozen in, like, shock of what I'm seeing. Looking back, I'm like, why didn't I, like, rush and grab a camera and film it or take pictures or something?
Too bad you didn't.
I wish I would have. I kid you not. This was like the beast. Like, when I say the beast, it was a beast. Its back was probably, I would say, probably 5 feet from the ground, walking on all fours. And it was just like muscly and just insane. And then it had a cub following it, following from behind, or pup. But it was insane.
I wish I would have been there.
But from that moment forward, I didn't want to go outside at night. Not there.
Yep.
But like I said, this house has like multiple branches of different stories that we could tell you.
It's a creepy house.
Very creepy house. Creepy stories going along with it. But I'm a definite believer in werewolves because, especially seeing one with its baby.
There's a lot of sightings.
There's tons of sightings in like White Bluff area.
Yeah. Like, your story sounds like another one that I was reading. This guy was on his way home from work, and he was maybe 10 minutes from his house.
Okay.
And he was coming up this big hill, and all of a sudden he got a weird feeling, so he started to slow down. But he was thinking, like, this is a place that deer might jump out, so he was thinking it was a deer.
Okay, so he's like slowing down, like watching for animals.
Yeah, watching for like a deer to jump out.
Okay.
He said he just felt like he was being watched or followed.
Ooh, that's creepy.
And there was no other cars around him. No other cars on this road.
Okay.
He got to the top of the hill and slammed on his brakes, because as soon as he got to the top of the hill, this huge black, you said whatever you saw was black.
Right, yeah. What I saw was black.
Hairy thing
Yeah.
came walking across the road. He said it was so big, its back arched up, kind of like a cheetah.
Yes, yes.
But only a lot more than that. Like, it had a really arched back. And that's
Right.
what you said.
Right, yeah. That's how mine, yeah, the one that I saw, yeah.
It's like hunched, kind of
Yeah.
arched.
It had like this big like hump on its like back. That's kind of crazy though. Like the way that they're describing it is what I saw.
He said if it would have stood up, it would have probably been 6 to 8 feet tall.
I was gonna say maybe 8 feet tall. Yeah.
So he's thinking like it was crawling, like you said, but he's thinking it probably stands too, because he said if it would have stood up, it would have been 6 to 8 feet tall or taller.
Right. Well, because like when you like for me when I saw this thing and I'm watching it walk, you could tell that it can stand up if it wants to.
Yeah.
Just the way that its legs are.
And that sounds like a werewolf.
Right.
Not like a hybrid, like wolf hybrid or anything.
No. It was definitely like werewolf.
Yeah. And then he said there was another car he saw, and he said they definitely saw it too, because they hit their brakes. They said they both saw it and just sat there.
Well, they're probably in shock.
Yeah.
The way I was, because it's when you see something.
Yeah. He says, I know, but I was in shock.
Yeah, because you're just frozen, because it's like your brain is trying to process what you're seeing, and you just can't move.
Because they're like, well, why didn't you take pictures or videos?
you can't.
Yeah.
You're so frozen in like your brain trying to make sense of it that you're just watching it.
Yeah. He said he has no idea what it was. It was not a dog. It was not a bear.
Yeah.
Dogs don't get that big,
Yeah,
or they don't have an arch like that.
Right. And a bear, I mean, if you see a bear, you see a bear. You know it's a bear.
He said the arms and the legs or whatever it had were so long.
Yeah.
That's what you said too.
Yeah, had really long legs.
That's creepy.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
He said when it was running, I guess it took off running.
okay.
He said the legs and arms were so long that it had to like throw them out to the side. Like I guess how crabs walk.
Kind of bent.
Like bent. He had to bend them out just to run.
See, now, the one that I saw, he just kind of just walked across the yard into the woods. I guess he didn't feel the need to run.
Well, he probably didn't know anyone was around. But
Plus,
this thing
having
was,
the pup with him.
yeah. This thing was probably like trying to run across just as fast as it could just to keep in cover.
Right. That is insane, though, how, like, close resemblance
Yeah.
that is to what I saw.
Yep. That was in Hamilton County, and that's 2.5 hours from us.
Okay.
Then there was another story about this guy that lived on Taylortown Road.
I'm trying to think if I read this story.
And that's in White Bluff.
Okay. It sounds familiar, like I may have read this.
Yeah. He was deer hunting. So he was out earlier in the day and he killed a buck. He had gutted him and had him hanging high from a large tree
I remember this one.
in the back of his home. The guts had been placed in a wash tub, I guess to dispose of later.
Right, yeah. I think he was just going ahead and just worried about the deer, and then he was going to worry about all the nasty later.
Yeah. So that night he was sitting out on his porch with his guitar, just hanging out, playing a little bit on his guitar. And he had a lot of coon dogs, I guess for hunting.
Yeah, yeah.
He had them pinned up behind the house.
Isn't this like where he's sitting there playing the guitar, and then just out of nowhere...
He just got this weird feeling.
Right, yeah, just an uneasy...
Yeah. And that's just like that other story. He just got this weird feeling all of a sudden.
I wonder, like, if... I don't know, it might sound weird, but... You think, like, the werewolves could, like, have that power to, like, give you an uneasy feeling before they show up? Or is it your body naturally getting an uneasy feeling before something?
Yeah. Maybe.
I don't know.
But he stopped playing and he just sat there and listened. And then he realized everything else got quiet. Like the crickets, frogs, whatever, the dogs.
Dead silent.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, the dogs came running around the house.
Well,
And
usually...
they were pinned up.
Okay.
So I guess maybe they broke loose, like they got this feeling too, and they wanted out. They wanted
Right.
to go see, what this was.
Well, normally, like, especially like when the woods and stuff goes quiet, it means like there's a big predator around.
Yeah. He said there was no way the dogs could have gotten out of their pen.
So something
Yeah.
was like maybe after them, or they just figured a way out.
Yeah, they wanted out. So he sat his guitar down and started to get up, and then He saw...
Like out in the distance or something, like the street light just, I don't know, like kind of shined light on this creature, like with this white stringy hair. And he was just kind of frozen because it's almost like he wasn't believing what he was seeing. Like kind of like I was saying, like when I was seeing it, like he was just frozen there, like, what am I seeing?
Yeah. And then he said it let out a cry.
Well, I mean, that would make sense because all these stories, they're
They'll hear some kind of scream.
some kind of scream or cry or something.
Like he said it was like a high-pitched scream.
Yeah.
And the hair on the back of his neck stood up. He said the thing took after him and his dogs, but he was so scared he couldn't even move. Like he was just paralyzed.
Yeah.
Could you imagine?
I mean, I'm thankful that when I saw it, I was inside, and it wasn't like focused on me. Because I feel like if I was outside and I ended up being frozen and it saw me.
Yeah. But he said this one was white. You think there's an albino one?
I mean, I don't see why that's not a possibility because
Yeah.
there's other albino animals out there.
Yep. So this thing comes after him, and then it stops right in front of him. And at this point, he knew if he didn't move, this thing was,
Was it like toying with him before it was gonna like
probably, I guess.
attack him?
Yeah. He said at this point he knew if he didn't move, this thing was gonna get him.
So I'm sure he's like sitting there like terrified.
Yeah. He was up on the porch.
And then like the guy, I guess he's like right inside the door. Like that
No.
close? No?
He's outside.
He's still outside?
Yeah.
So
and then this thing came up on the porch, but he hits the railing and kind of stumbles, so he took that time to run inside. He pushed the door open and ran in, and then he could hear it walking on the porch.
So it's almost like this thing's waiting for him.
Yeah, he's hunting him.
That would be terrifying.
Yeah. He was trying to close the door, but the rug was in the way.
Oh my god, my heart would be
And
racing
he kept
so
pushing
bad.
and pushing the door, trying to get the door closed. And he could hear the thing outside, like getting closer and closer.
I mean, at that point, I wouldn't know what to do. I mean, like, you're sitting there trying to fumble the door to get it shut with the rug.
Yeah.
And I guess he finally was able to
He
get
finally got the door closed, locks it, and then he could hear the creature's claws, like, scraping across the wood, like the porch. There was a small window at the top of the door, and he looked out to see if the creature was out there, and then started hearing these screams that rattled the glass in every window of the house.
Ugh. And just think, you're inside, okay? And I feel like if that werewolf was able to think about it or attempt it, it probably could have got inside.
I gotta move Todd. He's gonna get mad. Nope, he didn't.
But that thing probably could have got inside if it would have thought of a way how to.
Yeah. It was probably just messing with him. Like,
Well, yeah, because
toying with him.
that other story, I mean, that werewolf just busted into that cabin, no problem.
Yeah.
So it probably could have.
Yeah.
And it was probably just sitting there, like, doing that, saying, yeah, if I wanted to, I can get inside there and get you.
Yep. He said it was walking on 2 legs, but
Okay.
it could walk on all 4s.
So I wonder something. I wonder when it's like in like hunting mode,
Yeah.
if it's on 2 legs.
Yeah.
And then when it's not, it's just kind of like just grazing or whatever. It's on 4.
He said it had like human-looking hands with razor-sharp claws. And then he noticed his eyes were red.
I mean, like, what would you do?
I don't know. Get into the attic or the basement or whatever it had. I don't know.
This guy is inside his house.
And his family was in there. And they were all sleeping.
And they didn't wake up to this?
He didn't know why they didn't hear it. I guess he never woke them up. He just sat in the living room with his rifle all night.
Well, he probably didn't want to go upstairs and then risk the
Freak
chance
them
of
out.
it. Yeah, freak them out, or the thing get inside. And
Yeah. So he sat out there all night just waiting for this thing to come in. And he was ready. But then the sun started to come up. And he realized he didn't hear anything. It was quiet.
so, like the other story,
The
it
sun.
probably left because the sun was coming up.
Yep. So he went out to look around to make sure it was gone. And he found pieces of the window screens that had been ripped out of the windows. And his guitar was unharmed.
Well, that's nice of him.
But it had slime on it. Like slobber.
Slobbering on his guitar. Man.
He said there was tracks all around the house, like it was just pacing, like circling the house all night. And then the dog pen had been ripped apart. I hope the dogs are okay.
Well, I think they went underneath the house, right? So
Yeah.
maybe it didn't look for them because
Maybe they ran off. I don't know.
maybe the werewolf was too focused on the guy.
Yep. But he thinks it was attracted to the tub of guts that he had out.
That makes sense. I mean, that's going to lure anything in.
Yeah.
How about the
Because-
deer that was hanging?
It was gone. The deer and the guts, it was all gone. He had licked it clean.
I mean, how do you go back to normal after that? Like, as far as like people, like obviously him lives like out in the country.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and he's a hunter. Do you think he's ever went out and hunted again?
I don't know. I wouldn't. He said if he hadn't already eaten the deer, he probably would have tried to get in and to get him.
Okay, so he was like already eaten,
Yeah.
and so he didn't have that big appetite like I need
Yeah.
food now.
Yep.
I don't know, that's got me wondering because like for me, even though I witnessed it, I didn't like going outside after that at night, but hunting like deep into the woods, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if that'd be
Especially
something that
by
I could
yourself.
do. Well, that's what I mean. And I get like, yeah, you're a hunter, you're armed,
I'd be paranoid.
but there were stories in the past that even armed people,
Mm-hmm.
the bullets didn't phase this thing, so
Yeah. So there's another story in Jefferson County.
okay. Sounds like either this thing's like moving around, like
Where there's
migrating or
a
something,
lot
or
of
there's a
them.
lot more of them.
Yeah. So this guy and his friend were driving home. It was about 11 at night. And this was in a residential area.
Oh, wow.
The house is spaced some distance apart, but
Not so much of a country setting.
no.
Huh.
They were on a 2-lane highway no
Okay.
street lights or anything, and there wasn't really a lot of traffic.
Okay.
And it's not heavily wooded. There's some trees and fields, but
So we got some trees and we got some fields, but other than that, not really. Just more like suburban.
yeah, I guess this is around the Smoky Mountains.
Okay.
Yep. So they were driving down the road, and they said this thing sprang out and leaps across the road like it's nothing.
Oh my God.
He said it was like a dog, but bigger, running on all fours. He said it was the color of a deer, so it wasn't black. It was like brown,
Okay.
with a huge, like dog-like head, massive shoulders, and like a really small waist.
See, and that's like the other descriptions.
Yep. He said it was huge, like as tall as a cow.
Like on all fours, like its back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it was like a dog-type creature.
And so far, like all of these descriptions that everybody is kind of saying is like resembled like to the next one, like the shoulders, the height, the only thing that kind of differs is like the hair color.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got a story that I'm going to go ahead and read. And we'll see what happens.
Dun dun dun.
So it starts out, my mother, grandmother, my 2 younger brothers, and I were driving back and forth between Dixon and Waverly, Tennessee, which is about kind of where White Bluff, Werewolf Springs is. It was summer vacation, and my grandmother would visit family in those areas. I'm the oldest child and usually was the one awake in the back seat as we drove around. I noticed what I thought was a brown bear on a ridge 250 to 300 yards from the road. Now there are black bears in more like eastern parts of Tennessee, like
Yeah.
the Smoky Mountain area, stuff like that. They're more popular over there. So I thought this was a find to see a large brown bear that far in middle Tennessee. I spent a large amount of my youth in nature and am sort of an amateur biologist as an adult. I love animals and the outdoors. I say this to let it be known I know a wolf from a fox and a badger from a beaver. This bear, quote unquote, was sitting down on the ridge and watching the traffic go by. I noticed it was very large and unusually muscular.
Yeah, like you said.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know it wasn't a bear like
Yeah.
I saw. Its back legs seemed way too long. It was sitting more on haunches than the usual bear way.
Yeah.
Bears typically splay their feet out in front and sit on their butt.
Yeah.
Its head seemed large and oddly shaped for a brown bear, too. As we drove by, I remarked to the adults I was seeing a bear, and of course, nobody looked. I also noted that as we drove by, it seemed to be looking at our car. Its head was shaped a lot more like the huskies we were raising than a grizzly to me. It turned its head, and the profile was spot on for a large husky to my 12-year-old mind. We were driving no more than 45 miles per hour, so I got a pretty good look at this thing. In fact, we traveled back and forth on that stretch of road over 3 or 4 days, and about the same time every day. I know I saw at least 3 times in total in the same area, and it was doing the same thing each time.
What the
I
heck?
guess just sitting there watching traffic, He's bored. It must have liked to watch traffic. I attempted to point it out every time, and I recall my mother and youngest brother saw it briefly. Of course, we all thought it was an odd sight and had no clue it was anything other than a bear.
Yeah.
The memory of its odd shape, strange location for a brown bear, its odd movement. See, it didn't move like a bear. It moved like a dog. When it turned its head or body, it crawled on all fours more like a primate mixed with a great cat than a bear. My young mind just chalked it up to a strange but a normal animal. But I've never been able to fully rationalize it as a bear. Fast forward to about 2015, and I am now well aware of what I saw, thanks to a show called Dogman Encounters. I can put this odd sighting to rest. So, everybody that has seen these...
It's all the same description.
It's the same description. It's the same shape for the most part. The only thing that is kind of different about it is hair color. But, I don't know. And what I saw. So, no matter what, I'm a big believer in it because I saw one.
Yeah. I wish I would have been there.
But, whether or not you guys believe it, that's up to you. I believe it. Once when you see it, and you don't question anything anymore. You kind of just like, oh yeah, I know what you're saying because I saw the same thing.
Yep.
I think that might do it for tonight's episode. If you guys want to join us next week, should we let them know what we're doing next week or just kind of leave it as a surprise?
It's a surprise.
Surprise, okay.
Yeah.
Well, in order to find out our next week's episode, you'll have to tune in. I appreciate you guys for listening. Have a good night.
Bye.